A beef between two titans of the New York music scene hits the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs. Why 50 Cent was brought up this week during emotional witness testimony. Combs and 50, they've been at odds for a long time. And now, one of them is facing the possibility of spending the rest of their life in federal prison, and the other is not holding back or hiding the apparent joy they find in that possibility happening with a guilty verdict.
Nobody expected 50 Cent to show up in this courtroom. For years, he's taken shots at Diddy on social media, joking, clowning, calling him out in his usual way. But when he walked through those doors and took the stand under oath, everything changed. This wasn't trolling anymore. This wasn't rap beef. This was war. And what 50 Cent brought with him wasn't just petty gossip, it was a grenade.
Sean Diddy Combs and 50 Cent. These two go back a long time. They have been rivals for a long time. And this week we learned that, at least from Diddy's side of things, this feud apparently went far beyond words. 50 Cent's name came up during the testimony this week of Capricorn Clark. She is a former assistant of Sean Combs who went on to become the head of marketing for his Sean John clothing brand. Clark rose successfully and professionally through the ranks of Diddy's world during her time working for him, which stretched between 2004 to 2018, so she saw a lot. Clark claimed that Diddy would threaten her, and she says he even kidnapped her in 2011. All of this matters as we build up to how 50 Cent kind of factors into what she said on the stand. Now, Capricorn Clark started working for Bad Boy after she worked for Death Row Records. Now, that's surprising, since Death Row was ran by perhaps Diddy's most hated enemy, Suge Knight. Clark said that one of her good friends had a baby with Suge Knight, and that's how she knew him. And in perhaps the most shocking story from her testimony, Clark claimed that shortly after she started working for Diddy, Diddy and his security guards took her to Central Park after dark, and Diddy said, quote, "He told me he didn't know that I had anything to do with Suge Knight, and if anything happened, he would have to kill me." It is an allegation that paints Combs as someone who is ready to take a life. But as Capricorn Clark's testimony continued, she brought up another rival of Sean Diddy Combs and another allegation that he made an ominous threat of violence. Clark testified, when working for Diddy, they went to a press event at MTV and 50 Cent was there. And just wait until you hear what she says Diddy told 50's manager. 50 Cent's real name is Curtis Jackson. He rose to fame in the early 2000s. You might remember songs like In the Club. You might remember that he was the leader of the rap group G-Unit. Now, 50 grew up in Jamaica, Queens, New York. Diddy, also a New York native. He was born in Harlem, grew up in Mount Vernon, New York, just about 20 miles away. And even though they both had success in music, they both rose to fame representing the city of New York and the rap scene there, they have been longtime rivals. In 2006, 50 Cent released a diss track about Diddy. So almost 20 years ago, this goes back a long way. And in that diss track, he says, quote, "Who shot Biggie Smalls? We don't get 'em. They gon' kill us all. Man, Puffy know who hit that expletive. Man, that expletive soft." Now, 50 is accusing Combs there of knowing who killed his friend, the notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace. Wallace and Puffy were incredibly close, but Wallace was shot and killed in a drive-by shooting in Los Angeles in 1997, and no one has ever been charged for pulling the trigger. This all happened during really the height of the East Coast-West Coast rap rivalry of the 90s, which involved Suge Knight, who we mentioned earlier. 50 Cent has also accused Diddy of orchestrating the murder of death row rapper Tupac Shakur, who died in 1996 in a Las Vegas drive-by shooting.
The courtroom didn't see it coming. Diddy definitely didn't see it coming. And once 50 started speaking, there was no turning back. He began with the simplest line. "I've known Sean for a long time. Longer than most people here. I know the public Diddy, but I also know the private one." And with that, the tension cracked wide open. 50's tone wasn't loud or theatrical. It was cold, focused, dead serious. He said he never wanted to be part of this case. He said he'd tried to stay away. But when he saw the stories coming out, when he heard what was being said, he knew he had to speak. Not just to take a shot at a rival, but because he saw things, heard things, knew things, and they were darker than anybody on the outside could imagine.
This is Dwayne Keith D. Davis. He was arrested in September 2023, and he is the only person facing charges related to Tupac's murder. But 50 Cent has continued to push the allegation that Sean Combs either knows something or did something for Tupac to end up dead, though Diddy has denied that. But in a 2023 Instagram post, 50 wrote, "Damn, so Pac got lined by Brother Love, LOL, time to lawyer up, expletive, might get sticky," with a pic of Suge Knight in a car with Tupac. Diddy, who has a lot of names, Puff Daddy, Puffy, Puff, and Brother Love is one of those other names. Now, from Diddy's side of things, again, he's denied having anything to do with Tupac's murder, and he's also denied having anything to do with Christopher Wallace's death, and he's denied publicly having issues with 50 Cent. Here's what Combs said when he was asked about a beef with 50 in a 2018 interview with the radio show The Breakfast Club, Power 105.1 FM.
Hey, yo, I don't have no beef with
I don't know why.
With Fifth. He loves me. He loves me.
Do y'all really
can't
have
see
a
it?
beef?
I mean, y'all can't see it.
No, we can't see
Y'all
it,
can't
man.
see that he loves me?
But see,
you really, hold on, you really think that's hate?
If you look at 50's social media, you can see he has a lot of posts about Diddy. And this is what he posted the day that federal agents in Miami raided Combs' mansion ahead of his arrest on the charges that he's now on trial for. 50 Cent posted on X, "Now it's not Diddy do it, it's Diddy done. They don't come like that unless they got a case." 50 Cent also included a link to his G-Unit clothing brand in that post. While Diddy in the Breakfast Club clip said that 50 Cent actually loves him and there was never a beef, on the stand this week, Capricorn Clark said otherwise. Clark said that she was at this press event at MTV with Diddy and 50 Cent was also there, all of this happening in New York. Clark said, quote, "After the interview wrapped up, myself, Puff, and Chris Lighty got in the elevator." Clark said that Lighty was an entertainment manager who, on paper, was managing Diddy at the time, but was also 50 Cent's manager at the time. Prosecutors asked Clark what happened in the elevator, and she said, quote, "Puff told Chris, because they were having some sort of issue, like, I really don't like all the back and forth. I don't do that. I like guns." The prosecutor then asked, "What's the issue with an individual?" And Clark responded, he had an issue with 50 Cent. She said Combs was very serious when he said that. In this case, it has become common to hear testimony from witnesses about alleged threats by Diddy. In fact, several witnesses have said that Diddy regularly threatened to fire people, to beat people, like his former girlfriend Cassie Ventura, and in this case, making a threat involving firearms to settle a dispute per the testimony of someone who was one of his closest associates for more than a decade. Invoking gun violence and some sort of veiled threat, that could be scary for some, but apparently not 50 Cent.
He talked about parties, not the ones posted online. The private ones. The exclusive ones that only happened after the cameras were off and the phones were gone. He said Diddy had a reputation in the industry, not just for being flashy or rich, but for creating these spaces where the rules didn't exist. Spaces where the lines between pleasure, power, and manipulation got blurred. And he didn't mince words. He called it predatory. He said Diddy thrived on control, that he'd watch people, test them, push them, see how far they were willing to go. And when someone resisted, they were frozen out. Quietly, permanently. 50 told a story about a night he said he'll never forget. It was years ago. He'd been invited to a private suite after a music event. Diddy was hosting. At first, it looked like any other celebrity after-party. Bottles, music, famous faces. But something felt off. People were acting nervous. Some of the guests looked like they didn't want to be there. The energy wasn't right. 50 said he left after an hour. But the next morning, he got a call from someone who'd stayed. They were shaken. Said they saw things they couldn't unsee. Said people were being pressured to do things they didn't agree to. And Diddy? He was in the middle of all of it. That was the moment, 50 said, when he realized this wasn't just about wild nights or fame. It was about control. About how Diddy used his power to create an environment where people either gave in or disappeared. And from there, the stories kept piling up. Artists who got close to Diddy and then suddenly vanished from the spotlight. Employees who quit without warning.
On Instagram, 50 posted right after his name came up in the courtroom, quote, cut, wait a minute. Puffy's got a gun? I can't believe this. I don't feel safe, with a picture that looked like an AI image of 50 Cent on a movie set looking serious. And he wasn't done. Shortly after that, he posted another AI image on Instagram of him in a Yankees hat with a very scared look on his face with the caption, "Oh my goodness, itty bitty Diddy wants me dead. I have to lay low." Sad face emoji. "I think I'm gonna hide out at the playoff game tonight, LOL. Then the next day he posted what he did that night. He went to the NBA playoff game between the New York Knicks and the Indiana Pacers in Indiana. And you can see him here in a picture on the floor in a shirt that reads, quote, "Free Diddy," playing into the trolling that 50 Cent has done to Sean Combs over the years, even before Combs was ever accused of what he is on trial for. Now, Combs' trial is expected to last another month at least. He's charged with racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty. Join us now to talk more about the trial of Sean Diddy Combs and everything that's going on inside the courtroom is Afi Patterson, civil and criminal defense attorney. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. We're focusing on what was a minor moment in the grand scheme of everything we heard in the trial this week, but there's this anecdote that Capricorn Clark told about what related to 50 Cent, but what Diddy allegedly told 50 Cent's manager at MTV during her time of working for Diddy. What did you make of that? Sean Combs saying, "I don't like the back and forth, but I like guns."
I think it goes to the overall case. They've been saying that Diddy was a dangerous guy. If he made a threat, he could back it up. And I do recall reading that she said that his demeanor was very, very serious. And knowing the history, knowing his history, his violent history, knowing about the beef between Biggie and Tupac, I think that it probably frightened her. And I think that just again, her knowing about his violence, his propensity for violence, his behavior with her, his behavior with Cassie, his behavior with other employees, he's just continually reinforcing that violence. So I think it was a really good moment for the government.
Yeah, it's just, and it seems like there are these little moments along the way where there are some celebrity names that pop up. This case, it was 50 Cent. We heard earlier in the trial, Usher and Neo were at a dinner where Cassie was allegedly assaulted. It was unclear whether they saw that, but it was said that they were there. As far as the history of 50 Cent and Diddy, do we know how it started? I know that 50 Cent had a diss track, I think around 2006, claiming that Sean Combs knew who killed Biggie Smalls, but is there a particular incident that happened that made 50 Cent just seem to really start to come at Sean Combs?
Friends who distanced themselves without saying why. According to 50, this wasn't coincidence. It was part of a pattern. Then he dropped the real bombshell. He revealed that back in the early 2000s, he was approached by someone inside Diddy's circle. They offered him a chance to partner on a new venture. Something off the books, something exclusive. But when he asked questions, they got vague. Said it was about creating elite spaces for expression. When he pushed harder, they backed off. And days later, Diddy confronted him. Told him to forget the offer. Told him it wasn't for him. 50 said the look in Diddy's eyes that day still haunts him. It was like he knew I wasn't going to play along. And he didn't like that. The courtroom sat frozen as 50 laid it all out. He didn't yell. He didn't dramatize. He just told the truth. Or at least his truth.
Now, in a new interview recently published by The Hollywood Reporter, the Get Rich or Die Trying rapper isn't mincing words on how he really feels about his arch rival. In the interview, 50 Cent addressed his relationship with Diddy, who faces a number of troubling allegations, including rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, and sex trafficking over a string of lawsuits. 50 Cent says he's been very vocal about not going to Diddy's now infamous parties, which have been alleged as the site of some of the heinous acts he's been accused of. While referring to Diddy as his old moniker Puffy, 50 Cent said, "I've been very vocal about not going to Puffy parties and doing stuff like that. I've been staying out of that stuff for years. It's an uncomfortable energy connected to it." When asked if someone told 50 Cent if the energy there was off or if he went to something that felt odd, 50 replied, "He asked to take me shopping. I thought that was the weirdest stuff in the world because that might be something that a man says to a woman." He would go on to say, "From that, I wasn't comfortable around him." 50 Cent would go on to discuss the brutal hotel surveillance video released in May, which showed the Bad Boy founder horrifically attacking his ex-girlfriend Cassie. That incident was mentioned in Cassie's now settled lawsuit against Diddy, in which Diddy allegedly paid $50,000 for the tape. Once that video was made public, Diddy issued a public apology. However, didn't mention Cassie by name. As it's been reported, Diddy is no longer able to say her name publicly as a part of their settlement.
I was f***ed up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
The video was published to Diddy's Instagram, but has since been scrubbed from his page. Diddy's rival 50 Cent had choice words about the brutal video, saying first he denied that even happened, and then the tape comes out, so that means everything that N-word says is a lie. When someone watches that, if they have a daughter and they can imagine her being under those circumstances, that stuff is crazy. Like they let him get away with it. With all the influence and power you have, the person you're with is supposed to be a part of your life, not be forced. 50 Cent has long touted his plans to make a docuseries about his longtime rival. When asked what made 50 want to produce the series, he replied in part, "I'm the only one from hip-hop culture that's produced quality projects."
And the deeper he went, the worse it got. He talked about people who confided in him, people who worked with Diddy, people who said they felt trapped, like they couldn't leave, like if they spoke out, something would happen. Not lawsuits, not bad press, something worse. Silent threats, blackmail, rumors strategically placed to ruin reputations. It was all too calculated to be accidental. He even said there were whispers, conversations behind closed doors about Diddy keeping files, photos, videos, material that could be used to keep people in line. 50 admitted he never saw the files himself. But the fear? That was real. Too many people talked about it. Too many were scared. He said artists would leave Diddy's studio late at night looking like they'd been through war. Not physically hurt, but emotionally wrecked. Like they'd given up something they didn't want to. And the worst part? Most of them never said a word about it in public. At this point, Diddy couldn't hold it together anymore. He leaned forward, whispered harshly to his legal team, then slammed his hand on the table. The judge immediately called for order, but the outburst said more than any rebuttal ever could. He was unraveling. 50 just watched him. Didn't flinch, just stared, like he knew the reaction was coming, like he'd seen it before. And then 50 did something nobody expected. He got personal. He talked about being young in the industry, about how hard it was to navigate fame, power, and people like Diddy. He said the worst part wasn't the fear. It was the silence. How people around Diddy would enable him, protect him, normalize the behavior, laugh it off, defend him in public, and whisper the truth in private. 50 said he was done whispering. He ended his testimony with a simple sentence. This isn't about beef. It's about truth. And people need to know who they're really dealing with. The courtroom didn't applaud. It didn't need to. The silence said everything.
50 Cent and Diddy have collaborated on a few songs together, and when 50 was an unsigned rapper more than 20 years ago, he used to ghostwrite for the Bad Boy founder. But 50 Cent made it clear the two just worked together. He replied in part, "I wouldn't call it a friendship because there would be disappointment between us if we didn't speak to each other. There's points that we work together." 50 Cent would go on to credit Jennifer Lopez, Diddy's ex-girlfriend, who 50 Cent said told Diddy he would work with him as a songwriter in the beginning of his career. 50 Cent said this occurred when he was getting back to work after being shot several times in May of 2000. He would recall, though, one time when Diddy called and 50's oldest son's mother answered the phone and 50 refused to talk to Diddy. 50 would go on to say he didn't want to answer the phone because he didn't want to ever party or hang out with him. He replied, "Puff is a business person. When people call him a producer, I see people that were taken advantage of who produce things that he took from them. He got credit. He's not a producer. He's been able to take advantage of the business and the creatives in it. I don't have any interest in doing that. I actually fall under the creative, so I just didn't want to hang out with."
Outside, the press exploded. Cameras swarmed. Reporters screamed questions. Social media lit up instantly. People were reposting old clips of 50 warning about Diddy. Old interviews where he hinted at something deeper. Suddenly, the things that once sounded like jokes weren't funny anymore. They were warnings. 50 Was Right started trending. Fans dug up old videos, old tweets, old stories. Everything was under a microscope now. Every weird interview, every awkward exchange, every artist who ever left Bad Boy Records under mysterious circumstances. People started putting it all together, and what they saw wasn't a coincidence. It was a pattern. And Diddy? He had no response. No press release, no social post. Just silence. For a man who always had something to say, that silence was louder than any denial. What 50 did in that courtroom wasn't just powerful. It was a turning point. It wasn't about revenge or rivalry. It was about exposure, about ripping off the mask Diddy had worn for decades. And the scariest part? 50 wasn't even the last witness. More are coming. More people with stories. With receipts, with names. The industry is watching. And shaking. Because if Diddy can fall, anyone can. What happens next might reshape everything. Not just for him, but for the culture. For the system that allowed this to go on. For the silence that protected it. The truth is out now. And there's no stopping it. Diddy built his brand on being untouchable. But now, he looks very, very touchable. And the truth? It's coming for everybody.